Hi, I'm Ruth. I'm one of the owners of Alexander Associates. We are really excited to be launching our Promoting Women in Engineering video series. And with me is Kat Parsons, who is Head of Diversity and Inclusion at ISS. Hello.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for taking part.
No problem.
Wanted to start off just learning a bit about your career history, how you got into engineering, what was the spark, what was the inspiration.
Yeah.
So what led you to be an environmental consultant?
I think I'd got myself through school up to my A-levels. I really sort of enjoyed geography and that sort of like outside, go and do your sort of field trips, case studies, that kind of thing. I really enjoyed that part of things. So I knew I didn't want to be rooted to a desk all day.
Right.
So when I started to look at university courses, I was looking at the prospectuses, having a flick through, what could I do that sort of really sparked in terms of my academic piece, but also that piece that I didn't want to be rooted to a desk. So as I was having a flick through, I saw an image of a consultant taking water samples, and I was like, that's me. I want to go and take some water samples, be out and about all day, all weathers, all around the world, and basically see where that career took me. So I went to university. I went to Lancaster, a fantastic university. Did environmental sciences. Again, very technical, but a nice sort of mix of the science elements, but also that element of being outside. But equally that bit around doing something for the planet. And I think that was something that again I was quite passionate about. That sort of environmental piece. So as part of that, I did a couple of placements during university as well, just in the summer period, just to get a bit of sort of work experience.
And were they nice to you when you did your placements?
Oh, they were so good because I was free labour more than anything. But they were sort of back where I was at home. So I did a stint with the Environment Agency. Again, quite like that side of things. But again, it was a bit in the office. And I was thinking maybe that wasn't quite what I wanted to do. So for me, it was almost like a sort of temperature check of like, do I like that bit? Okay, right, we'll try another one for second year. So I went to an environmental consultancy for a 6-week placement over the holidays and loved it. Like, again, I was out, I was meeting people on sites. There was diggers, there was all sorts, and I was thinking, I can really see myself, hard hat overalls on.
This is what I want.
This is what I want to do. So I then went on to graduate, and they offered me a job straight away. So I moved back to my hometown of Ipswich, and I did 18 months with them, working on flood risk. But equally, I sort of started to touch on contaminated land.
Yeah.
And I realised actually that's the bit I really enjoyed. Again, there was quite a nice bit of technical piece around the flood risk, but actually the bit I really enjoyed was that being outside and that, again, getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
So that's where I took it from there.
Excellent. And then you went on to work kind of more in project management?
Correct, yeah.
And was that still in land contamination?
It was, yeah.
Right.
So I realised after sort of that 18 months, I'd sort of found my feet, worked out what I really liked, and then decided that it was quite a small consultancy I was working for. So I decided to try a big consultancy. Yeah. So I moved across to another environmental consultancy, and I was out 5 days a week, all weathers, all year round, 365 days a year. I went out on over the festive period one year because there'd been an instant response, and I realised the bit I really liked was that kind of like logistical, last minute, quick, we need someone
like
to
reactive,
go in. I really
liked
it. Yeah, really liked that bit. So then I became the one that, was, if there was like a last minute, we need to get a plan together, then that was always then landed on my desk to try and get sorted out, which I loved. I loved the urgency of it all. Yeah. So it turned out, again, I was almost more useful in the office than on site, although I really enjoyed the site bit. So I sort of took a sort of route through the business. I had to work very hard to get through the business to sort of start working my way up the ladder.
Was there any main challenge to get from step one? We often see that graduates have to leave a business after 3 years. Yeah. Because they're always seen as the graduate and they can't quite make that leap. And that's one of the areas we work with clients to try and help them to be able to move women through the organisation rather than lose them after they've invested in them for 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why I sort of made that first initial step after 18 months is that, again, it wasn't fitting, I wasn't quite getting what I needed, and I don't think I was getting enough exposure, mainly because it was a small consultancy. But I managed to do the step through sort of in that sort of graduate level to a slightly more senior position quite easily because they realised I was useful in terms of that organisation, the project management, the logistics piece. Yeah. I think actually that step was actually quite easy for me to make. But that's the point I then felt I was sort of stuck in sort of like a very middle management role. Yeah. And that's when actually I did almost 10 years at that consultancy and I wasn't getting where I needed to be. And again, I was demonstrating, but I just couldn't seem to get up a sort of a decent hurdle. Yeah. So, I mean, there were some sort of, individual sort of promotions throughout that. But
and did you have a goal? I want that. Did you have somebody that you could look to at that stage and say, okay, well, that's where I want to be?
Yeah, I think it was quite tricky actually, because again, in terms of the women that were already in the business, they were very, very technical women, and I was less technical, but more of a sort of all-round. I could manage teams, I could manage budgets, I could manage programs. So in terms of that program management piece, that was really what sold me. But I was almost being held because I didn't tick the very, very technical box. So to be able to sort of aspire to someone in that business, it was a bit like, well, I'm going to have to go really technical. And I was going, looking at chartership, I was looking at masters, and I didn't want to do that. That wasn't what I wanted to do. So I almost felt like my skill set was almost holding me back because I wasn't ticking one box.
Yeah.
But then if I looked at sort of counterparts in the business, and I remember this happening time and time again, if there were 10 things I needed to tick off to get promotion, I'd be doing 9 of them, and I'd be having to work really hard, to come on, like demonstrate. But there'd be guys that were sort of ticking 6.5 boxes.
And off they went.
And off they, up they go. So that was quite frustrating.
Yes. How did you cope with that kind of emotionally? Because that's really difficult when you see men promoted around you and you're thinking, hang on a minute, I am doing more than them. I'm working harder, which is what women often have to do.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to cope with.
Yeah, I think you get quite tough with it, I think. And I think, again,
especially in construction industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
you probably went really tough.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So almost, to the other extreme, just to overly demonstrate what my capability was.
Yeah.
But again, as part of that business, I started managing larger budgets and larger this. And again, I was thinking, I don't like finance. Like, why am I, I'm being
be a QS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was sort of being shoved into a path that again I didn't want. It wasn't my skill set. So I left that business, and I got the promotion as part of moving business because it wasn't coming within the company I was in. So I got my sort of step. I got my next job title. I was happy with that. For me, it felt like that move was only a stepping stone anyway. It was a medium-sized business. I wasn't entirely sure about the culture of it, but again, it was the step I needed to get the promotion up. So I'd always thought, a couple of years and I'll move on again. But I ended up sitting there for 4 years, so a bit of a longer stepping stone.
And did you ever come across times when financially you had to fight for an equal status?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Right.
Again, whispers of what people are being paid versus what I was being paid.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was always pretty tough.
So transparency on salaries is probably really important to you.
Yeah, and I think almost to the point that now it's one of the first things I sort of start to look at.
Yes.
Almost because I've had to be so like, hang on a minute, I'm equal to you, yet I'm not being paid the same.
Yeah.
That now it's almost like sort of the top of the agenda to make sure that I am being equally paid for my skill set. But I moved out of that the engineering role. I decided
because your role now is very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
And I think I almost got pushed to the point that again I was going for the next promotion within the business, and it just seemed like out of reach again because I wasn't ticking that technical hard skills technical box, but I had everything else in terms of I could create a team, I could create that culture, I could get people to do anything I needed them to do at short notice, call in favours. I had those skills, but because I didn't your report writing could be worked on. Do I need that to become a principal engineer in a business? No, I really don't. No. So I decided that was it. I had a big sort of reflection on my career, decided I wasn't happy. I was very stressed. It was work-life balance was horrendous that I thought, right, I'm gonna move out. So I changed industry completely into facilities management. I knew nothing about facilities management at all.
So what led you to facilities management? Did you look at different industries and say, I'm definitely not doing that one, but oh God, this one looks quite progressive. Where could we go?
It was that. It was more a diverse space, but equally I felt there was something that I could do within that business. So in terms of my skill set, I actually moved across in a health and safety role. So sort of trying to pick out the bits that I really enjoyed from my work. Again, I quite liked going to site and saying, right, what are you struggling with?
Yeah.
Tell me, be open and tell me what you're struggling with, and I will fix that for you.
Yeah.
Or, I'll try my hardest to. Yeah. So that's
not
the bit I liked.
Culture.
Exactly. So open, tell me.
You can deliver what you need to deliver.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So I took that part that I really enjoyed. I moved across facilities management in that health and safety role. And then as part of that, I was working on a number of more the health side of things. I did a project on the menopause, and then that got picked up. Yeah. It went absolutely mad. Yeah. And I then was asked to take this position of head of diversity and inclusion for the UK and Ireland, which I originally said no to because I thought, I can't do that. Like, in terms of that confidence piece, I was thinking, I almost to the point, because, as we were saying, in terms of working in that male-dominated industry, I felt I was quite hard And actually, that role requires a lot of empathy that I felt that maybe I didn't have. But then again, on self-reflection, I had bucket loads of empathy.
Absolutely.
But it was how I was actually showing that was maybe not in a emotional way, but actually, that supportive bit that people needed.
Yeah.
That's the bit I could give them. So actually, again, self-reflection of, no, I could make a real big difference in this.
I can absolutely do this.
It's going brilliantly.
So what have you implemented that other organisations can learn from? Because that's what we're really trying to help our clients now. What can you do differently? You need to make changes within your organisation. Is there kind of some quick fix ones that you can recommend really quickly that people can do?
Yeah. So something that, again, seems to be very prominent in facilities management is having employee resource groups. To the point I came to the business, everyone was talking about these ERGs. I was trying to Google what an ERG was. I had absolutely no idea. I'd never experienced that in 16 years as part of consultancy and engineering. So actually, to be able to have those spaces is very easy to create. Obviously, they're employee-led. They don't necessarily need a budget, but you're hearing the voice of the business through those sort of groups of people, whether it be, gender specific, whether it be generation specific, new consultants coming into the business, for example, whether it be LGBTQ+. There's those pockets that people feel that they have the space where they can sort of connect and say, I'm really struggling with this. And the point, again, that you move through those as well. So I became a parent whilst being an engineer on site. My partner carried our son. So I was still out 5 days a week in all weathers. She's gradually getting, bigger and bigger and bigger at home. I had my 2 weeks of paternity leave, but she had quite bad mental problems afterwards in terms of, trying to adjust. I wasn't there. So I went into work and said, look, I really need to be home more.
Time.
I need to be there to support her. Obviously, she'd had a cesarean as well, very tricky time. And I was told, well, actually, we've got 3 weeks worth of Scotland coming up and you're the best person to do it. So off you go. So I left my partner at the time at home with severe postnatal depression.
Oh my goodness.
And I was off in Scotland for 3 weeks and the weekends.
So that simple support you could have been given actually would have made a massive difference to you and your family.
That flexibility. And again, I felt like I'd paid that forward so many times with last minute work, working over the festive period, working weekends. I'd done my time. I just needed that little bit of time back just to be able to focus on home. But that work-life balance was just not there.
And so that's probably the reality of the roles, and that's what companies need to change. They need to look at how they are, what they're getting from people, and those simple changes will make such a massive difference to their workforce.
I think it's very much cultural as well.
Yes.
So again, working on construction sites, I was either faced with, mostly, a group of men would either be absolutely swearing their heads off with every other word to the point that I was almost then copying them to then fit in, or it'd be the exact opposite where it'd be like, oh, can't swear in front of the woman, sorry, can't swear in front of the woman,
sorry, I didn't say that. Yes.
So which I would then respond saying, I'd say 10 times worse than that,
yes,
almost, so that it was almost like, I'm one of you, I can
I'm one of the boys, really.
Exactly that.
So you had to conform. Well, you feel you have to, don't you?
And again, I think some of that, yes, at the time it was quite difficult, but in terms of a skill set, I think it is quite a skill to be able to change the way you speak to a group of people to be able to get the best out of what you need. And it's almost that sort of chameleon effect, that kind of coding that that if you're going to go onto a site, my demeanour would change, the way I walk changes. Put rigger boots on and a hard hat, I look different, and I will strut in there and I will tell you, what you need to do and what I need from you. But it was almost in that first, you walk into the site cabin, you're going to sign in, and I knew that in the first minute I needed to have said something that makes them realise, I'm not a feeble woman. I'm here. I know what I'm talking about.
Some respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would almost get those sort of like, it's almost like a chat up line, really, I suppose. As soon as you walk in, I would have said something. I probably would have sworn. I probably would have asked for a cup of tea with milk and sugar, which I hate. Just to sort of, I'm part of you, and I deserve to be here.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, the big question is, do you think things have changed? Do you think if you went back on site now, not the person you are now, but the person you were then, do you think things have moved on enough? Do you think there's been changes within the industry which mean that women are more welcome on site? Do you think those changes have happened, or do you still think, sadly, this is just too slow?
I think a couple of things. So I think, having spoken to some surveyors last week, they were talking about the welfare facilities on construction sites. And I always remember them being horrendous. You had to ask for a key. It was usually a storeroom or the special toilet. There was no feminine products. There was no, it was like really awful. And again, to be sort of going through a menstrual cycle whilst being on site.
Yeah.
Again, that was very, very difficult. But, the surveyor I was talking to last week was saying, she will literally not drink from the moment she gets up in the morning to the end of her shift, so she doesn't have to use the facilities.
So there are still those things
and that's
physically on site.
Yeah, that's a basic. Yeah.
Or
they wouldn't have women's toilets at all. So then you're having to use, the guys' toilets. And again, from a construction site, I remember, then they're not the best.
No.
So... but on the flip side of that, the previous company I worked for, I know they've put a menopause policy in.
Right.
And again, I don't know whether that's a little bit they'd seen what I'd been doing and therefore thought, actually, that is something we need to look at.
Yeah.
Because, again, of women leaving the industry.
Yeah.
You're getting women into, senior positions. Fantastic. That's great. But then you're losing them because you're not giving them that support they need in terms of, anxiety, stress, depression. That change of fluctuating of hormones can be horrendous.
Yes. Yeah, just coping, being in an office with hot flushes and the brain fog.
Absolutely.
Like the brain fog is real.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it, and I find it, I'll be on the phone, it's such a challenge, and to try and get people to understand, actually, this is really real what I'm feeling, and it's horrible that all of a sudden my brain will just shut down and I can't think of the next sentence. And I've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. I think there needs to be so much more understanding.
Yeah. Again, you've worked your way through your career to get that respect, and all of a sudden, you can't remember people's names, or and
you can see it, and how quickly people will go. Oh,
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And there, there's people I worked with again were that sort of stage of their lives where it was almost they started sort of second guessing themselves. So instead of replying to an email about, can you proofread this?
Yes.
Can I bounce this idea, which never would have happened before. That confidence, they almost needed a sounding board to make sure that they were, on the right track.
Yeah. We touched on gender discrimination, and you mentioned a couple of things. Was there anything that really, this was just so bad that you think that this was a no-no? Were there any times when you thought, I actually don't think I can stay working in this industry, I can't, because of a certain event or something that happened?
There's a couple spring to mind. So one of which, very early career out of university, young gay woman, on sites, and again, it was quite difficult. Do you come out? Do you not come out?
Yeah.
In terms of it's already difficult being a woman, in the industry anyway, but then to come out as a gay woman as well. But I do remember going across to, we had a drilling stores at the time. You go and get all your kit, meet the guys, have a bit of a chat about what the work's coming up. And I remember using the toilets in their facilities, and there was just an absolute stack of pornography next to the toilet. And as a 21-year-old woman coming into the business, and that's what they thought of women was this stack of pornography. Was just.
So what did you do?
It just was normal.
Really?
It was absolutely normal. So again, to the point you'd be like, oh, okay, oh, that's horrendous, put that back down again. That was the thing. And I think again through my career, I felt that I was very much, again, that chameleon effect. Shaping myself into the room that I was in at the time, and not being myself. So therefore, it was almost, well, am I not getting the promotions because I'm not being authentic?
Yeah.
Or do I need to hide who I am and I'm not shaping enough to actually tick those boxes? So, again, another example. Again, it was a drilling job. I remember the weather was horrendous. We had to get up early, one of those last minute jobs, and there was an issue with the work that we were doing. It just, we couldn't get the location we needed to. It's geotechnical, very complicated. And again, I had to phone back into the office again. Couldn't get hold of the man, the male manager I needed to get hold of. So I just made a decision. I was like, right, okay, this piece of paper says this. I'm only a junior consultant, so we'll call it there. And I got an absolute earful. Why did you not do this? Why did you not go deeper? Why did you not? Why did you not? But if I'd made the decision to go deeper, that's additional cost, additional this, additional time. I wasn't allowed to make that decision, but because I, had made a call, absolutely, screamed at down the phone. So again, taking those lessons forward onto other jobs, again, it was just, you just felt I had to check in all the time.
Yeah. So that your confidence to trust your own gut instinct, your own abilities, the training, everything, over time, you can lose that.
Yeah.
And we see that with women coming back from having babies.
Yeah.
Often they just won't come back to work, or if they do, well, I can't do that job anymore. I'm not capable of it, because you lose the ability to trust your own instincts and be able to do your job.
Yeah, and I think that's really valid as well, because it was almost sort of like you couldn't make a technical, a hard technical decision on site, because you had to ring in to your male manager to get. So again, that was almost approval, exactly. So you weren't then, again, later on then you get penalised for, not having those hard skills. You're very good at the soft skills, project management, budgets, people, communication, very good at the soft skills, but the hard skills, the technical skills, that's what you needed to aspire to be. And that wasn't who I was. So, why could I not progress through a business, with the absolute plethora of skills I did have, that I could make a real difference in a business. Yeah. But I was sort of being, pushed down to, you're not technical enough, that was to what to aspire to be.
Yeah, that is... that is unbelievable, isn't it? And probably that's still very much, we see that, it's the technical people, or they're not quite technical
Absolutely.
enough, that hold them back from moving on to do project management or program management.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one other thing in terms of that sort of site side of things, again, when I used to go out to site, I think you almost, because you've demonstrated you're one of the boys, you've done the swearing bit, you've done the the bit of the banter stuff. Again, even if it's not you and your personality, that then you were almost, again, being a gay woman, I was then sort of being coerced into the sort of catcalling and, have you seen over there? What do you do at that point? That's completely against, respect for women.
If you went back now, do you think you would take a totally different line, or do you think you'd still probably be forced into being the same? I'm going to have to be like that because that is the culture. You can't. Do you think you can call people out easier now?
I think if me being me now went back on site again, I would absolutely zero tolerance. Yeah. But at the time,
do you think that would be respected and received, or do you think that would be met with, "Oh, she's difficult, isn't she?"
No, it probably would be that she's difficult, and I think I have I grew a very thick skin over that period of time, and I think that's why I didn't think I had those empathy skills. But again, say what you like now. Again, it is zero tolerance. We shouldn't be speaking to women like that, and I would have called it out. But again, at the time, you just need to fit in to get the best, so that you're not having that. Oh, isn't she hard work?
Would have been so interesting to see somebody do that and see if their promotions would have been, quicker than yours. Would they have had to sign that technical box? Would there have been that fear from an employer? Oh my goodness, we better promote them quickly because otherwise they're going to cause us problems. I
think it's almost your in terms of yourself as well. So again, that sort of logistical part of me, if something wasn't working or we needed to just shave some time off, I was quite good at that sort of strategic piece of, right, if we do that, I'll go and help over there, we'll do that. Yeah. But again, it was how it was then received was really difficult. So you almost had to make it seem like it was someone else's idea, even though I just come up with this master plan of how we're going to get back on track again. But I won't take any credit for it. I'm just going to manipulate you. I'll manipulate you into that, and we'll do that. And then all of a sudden, we did a really good job. Well done us. Pat on the back. Yeah. That come from me. So again, it's that sort of self-promotion piece. And I think the bit that really switched for me is when I realised I wasn't getting that sort of self belief through the business. I decided to I worked out basically it's a game, and that was my mindset when I go into work, is this is a game and I now understand the rules. So I used to work on oil and gas contracts. Yeah. Health and safety was like another level. So I decided, again, same thing, I'm very passionate about health and safety, it's there for a reason. And I understood why, because I'd seen accidents and incidents. And I knew it's because people weren't following the rules and they should be. So there was a site that I worked on, and I remember it absolutely clearly. Again, I was there for months and months and months, loads of driving through the whole of summer. It was a really grueling project. But again, one of those ones that logistically was, really difficult, and I absolutely loved it. But I decided that every tiny thing I'd pick up on. So I was putting near hits and instant reports in for everything. You're not wearing a hard hat. Why? That's got a hole in it. Why are we not? That's wrong. Yeah. I must have put in about 30 in the space of a month, to the point that everyone was going, what has happened on this site? Oh my goodness, what's she done? Like, we need to take her off. And that was the conversation, was that we need to take her off site. Clearly something's not right. And then the client got involved, the global client of this oil and gas, had a look at all this, came to site. So I was like, oh my goodness, what's happening here? And he was like, well done. Good. No one else calls this stuff out. We know this stuff slides. So the fact that you're no. Yeah. That was the point where I realised, actually, I need to start shouting. Yeah. To say, this isn't right, and that's not right, and that's not right. And that was almost the changing point of my career.
So how many years into your career was that changing point?
Oh, probably about 7.
Yeah.
So it taken me long, silence.
Yeah.
And again, witnessing incidents and things that then were sort of, let's not tell anyone about this. Keep your mouth shut. Yeah. Again, that one of the boys, one of the team.
I can't be seen to be saying anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's so great to speak to somebody and you must have faced some real challenges. Obviously, have faced some real challenges. Yeah. what we'd like to do is carry this series of videos on. Is there anybody that you can recommend that we could talk to next?
Yeah, so I would highly recommend Louise Beale, who is a technical director at SLR Consulting. So Louise I met when I was working with that business. She came in as sort of the new director of one of the areas, pretty much I think the first female, and she was the one who really could see very quickly in terms of the skills I had and my attitude to work and, you know, what I've actually brought to the business. She was the one that really picked me up and was like, right, you know, I'm going to push this through the business. And it wasn't like, you need to have some mentoring, you need to have some training, you need to have this. Like, she knew I had it already and that I was good for business. And she basically was the one that was banging the drum, the Kat Parsons drum, you know, we need to be
the businesses need to
exactly
change.
That
you've got everything that you need.
Absolutely.
Actually, the businesses need to change.
Absolutely. And she got me that big promotion that I needed. And then it was within 6 months of that, I was thinking, no, this is not, I'm not going to get, that was as far as I was going to get. I wasn't going to get any further, and I think I knew that. Yeah. So at that point, I decided to change careers. But she was just phenomenal in terms of her attitude, her external profile as well. So not only is she doing a really good job internally, externally as well, she's doing all sorts of work in terms of mentoring and sponsoring and getting women into roles as well. So again, in terms of working twice as hard, she's absolutely doing it.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Your house.
Yes.
This all-female project.
Yes.
Brilliant. Tell us.
So we bought an absolute dive of a house with no heating and no carpets for our family of 2 children and a dog as well.
Yeah.
And we were sort of backing some ideas around. My wife's been in construction and is still in engineering, so she's been 30 plus years now in engineering, same sort of industry that I was in. And we were having a bit of a chat around, again, environmental sustainability. We wanted to tick all these boxes to make sure that the house was as good as it could be from that point of view. And then we were having that conversation of, actually, we could probably do something with this. You know, it's not a massive, it's not like a huge building development.
Yeah,
it's
literally
castle. No, exactly. It's literally a 2-story wraparound extension. It's not huge. The budget's, all right. But when we were talking about it, we were saying, actually, we know people in the industry just from who we've worked with that could actually do this. And then we were like, actually, well, why don't we do it? Why don't we just try and do an all-female design and build project?
Brilliant.
So when we started to look into it, there's been examples of the design element, but for me, that's the easy bit. Architects, it's those jobs, architects, surveyors,
plumbers,
very difficult.
Yeah.
Electricians,
yeah.
brickies,
yeah.
Plant operators, more tricky. So instead of just doing that half a project, we've gone for the whole thing. So far the network is literally growing and growing and growing and growing. And I'm speaking to so many people that again are doing so much work, not in their own industries, but also externally as well, in terms of promoting again those harder construction skills as well on site. So
because I saw on LinkedIn the plumbing company,
absolutely, Stopcocks,
and I got in touch with them to find out if we can sponsor an apprentice or something through them, because that is just brilliant what those ladies are doing.
So it's brilliant. Again, they take women who have gone through domestic violence and abuse, help them out of that situation. They then give them a trade, train them up, and then off they go. So for us paying a little bit extra to use their services, that bit of money is going to training, and helping support that next woman. So
there's so much more you can give back to the industry than just, taking on a graduate. I know that's really important, graduate training schemes, taking on apprentices, but this industry is huge.
Absolutely.
And it's not just design engineers, CAD technicians, building surveyors. There's so many job titles and so many things that people can do. And it's not till you start really looking into it. I wanted to do these videos because I now know if I went back in time, I would want to work in engineering. I would have absolutely loved it. But I was told at school, you're really good at English, be a school teacher. And that was my only career choice that I was given. And I kind of fell into recruitment, fell into sales, and then fell into working in engineering. And I just love it. It's fascinating. As a subject, it's fascinating. And I work in one small area of it. So it's so great to hear all the different jobs that women can do in engineering.
Absolutely. And I think it's finding those male allies as well. Looking back on my career through construction and engineering, I remember the good bits. There's those bits that we've discussed. But overall, in terms of a career, I absolutely loved it. I got to see parts of the country I never would have did. Met, thousands and thousands of people that again would tell you their stories, and that was the bit I really, really enjoyed. And I wouldn't change it. Yes, it was hard, but I think that's made me who I am today. But through this sort of all-female project, actually those male allies that are stepping forward to say, you know what, we've had it really easy, and you know, we recognise that you haven't. So, you know, it's picking those people as well to say, you know, yes, we can help with this. You know, we're a male ally, and I have a son as well. So again, it's, you know, it's almost nice for him to see that at home we don't have a stereotypical blue and pink jobs.
Yeah.
You know, we have all jobs. You know, they both have tool. You know, my daughter as well has a tool belt and you know, her drill, and you know, they both crack on and help with projects and stuff. So that's the role model I want to be to my kids. Is that
definitely
do what you want to do.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely to meet you and hear about your career. We are going to be putting a series of videos together promoting women in engineering. We would love to hear from you. If you want to sit in this chair and be interviewed, that would be brilliant. We're hoping to get these videos into schools as well, to help show girls at school age the careers that can be available to them, that they don't have to be school teachers if they're good at English. There are other careers available. Equally, if you are looking at your diversity policy at the moment and you need some help, we'd love to hear from you.